I call the meeting of the San Juan Unified District Board of Education to order. There are two closed session items on tonight's agenda. First, student expulsions in two cases governed by Education Code Section 48918 sub F. And second, the collective bargaining matters discussion with negotiator Daniel Thigpen, Senior Director of Labor Relations, regarding CSEA Chapter 127 General Operations Support and chauffeurs, Teamsters, Local 150, transportation supervisors and teachers, and certificated supervisory units, and regarding non-represented groups, management and confidential units, Government Code Section 54957 sub 6. We have a comment for open session. I would like to remind the public that comments are limited to 2 minutes per speaker, and the clock on the screen counts down the time. And I call on Kyle Murphy.
Ignorant to all the practices of the SJSD school board. Let the record show I was not aware that only one school board member would be here. Maybe that's common practice. In fact, the room's quite empty. But seeing as though the labor negotiations were to be discussed and closed, I thought the appropriate time to mention again that one of your, and by the way, I've not researched any other board member other than Ms. Viasquez, but Paula Viasquez and videos on social media and websites disclosing campaign dollars have confirmed has taken money from some of the very unions that, now I don't know about tonight, I didn't catch all the unions that you're speaking with, but in general, she's been, the time, is that the time I'm supposed to be watching? All right. I trust you, dear, that she has been taking campaign dollars, not for state senate, I misspoke last week, but for the actual school board position itself, which is far, far worse. So I don't know what camera I'm on. If you're looking at this and you're a parent and you're not here, what I'm telling you is that your school board is taking campaign dollars from the very labor unions that she's negotiating against, at least one of them. I don't know about the rest, but that's clearly, while legal, a conflict of interest, because when it comes time to spend money on your children or the labor unions, she's probably going to feel the weight of tens of thousands of dollars of campaign contributions on her back. And we don't know if she'll make the right choice, but typically that kind of money is not spent without some sort of quid pro quo attached. So you should be very, very concerned about what's happening with the 40,000 children and families in this district and that kind of conflict of interest and dishonesty. Thank you for your time, Doctor.
We now move into closed session, and we will return to open session at 6:30. I call the meeting of the San Juan Unified School District Board of Education back to order. The meeting is being audio and video recorded, and the recording may capture sounds and images of those attending this meeting. The recording will be posted on the district website. Board meetings are being held in person in the boardroom at the district office, and the public is welcome to attend. Alternatively, the meeting may be viewed on the district's YouTube channel, where it is being live streamed. Please stand for the presentation of the colors by the Casa Roble Fundamental High School Air Force ROTC. Good evening and welcome. I am Michael McKibben, Board President. To my right is Ms. Seema Creason, Board Vice President, and to her right is Mr. Saul Hernandez and Ms. Paula Villasquez, Board members. To my left is Superintendent Kent Kern, and to his left is Board Administrative Assistant Stephanie Cunningham. Ms. Pam Costa is absent tonight due to illness. Individuals who are attending the meeting in person and who would like to offer public comment, we ask that you complete a speaker request card available at the staff table, and you will be called on at the appropriate time during the agenda. Please note that Board Bylaws 9323 limits visitor comments to 2 minutes per speaker and no more than 30 minutes on a single topic. The time will be extended for any speaker who uses an interpreter. Please be aware that public comments, including your name, become part of the public record. We now move to item D, approval of the minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the minutes for May 10th?
So, second.
Moved by Ms. Vasquez, seconded by Ms. Creason. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? That is unanimous. We now move to item E1, staff reports. Dr. Kelvin.
Good evening, President McKibben, members of the board, Superintendent Kern, and Ms. Cunningham. In order to partner effectively and respectfully with all members of our educational community, it is essential that we recruit and retain a diverse team of leaders with solid intrapersonal and interpersonal skills who can serve schools throughout the district. To that end, San Juan Unified School District, San Juan Professional Educators Coalition, and San Juan Teachers Association have worked collaboratively to develop a Cultivating Leaders seminar series and program. The main purpose of the Cultivating Leaders program is to offer professional and organizational development support that reinforces our district's collaborative culture and builds leadership capacity throughout our system. Participants will be divided into job-alike cohorts. There will be a group for teachers and practitioners interested in assuming leadership roles at their sites, a group for teachers and practitioners who are already leaders at their school and have an interest in becoming site administrators, and finally, separate groups for all first and second year vice principals and principals. The learning progression for our cohorts will involve 3 pathways: skill development, practicum, and individualized support. Skill development will involve a year-long series of workshops and professional learning opportunities that will cover not only the district's leadership stance, but a variety of interpersonal and intrapersonal skills such as communication, conflict resolution, reflection, and inclusive practices. Practicum is the opportunity to put the skill development training into practice. Participants will, as much as possible, be provided with opportunities to lead. Examples include temporarily stepping in as a substitute teacher in charge or vice principal and taking on leadership roles in a variety of site and district projects. Cohort members will also receive input and support from their peers through feedback loops. Individualized support is a chance for one-on-one assistance through opportunities such as mentoring, shadowing peers, shadowing experienced leaders, and the gathering of affinity groups. Additional supports could include assistance with navigating preliminary credential programs, book studies, and interview training and practice. We are also committed to recruiting and retaining a diverse staff and will provide a targeted support to historically marginalized groups. Members of the Cultivating Leaders Committee hosted an informational meeting on Monday, May 23rd, and out of the 83 registrants, 62 people were in attendance. Because this is our pilot year, we will have limited capacity, as SHATA unit members will have to submit an application, which will be due on May 25th. So far, 30 applications have been received. All first and second year administrators will be expected to participate, while numbers are not yet solid. As of today, we anticipate at least 18 first and second year principals and 19 first and second-year vice principals. We are excited about the collaborative effort and the opportunity to provide this service to our community.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board or comments? Yes, please.
Just no questions, but thank you for that update. That's really exciting. I mean, we have, as we all know, a severe shortage of professionals, and we certainly want our staff to reflect the community it serves. So thank you for the update.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Calvin.
Okay.
We are now at item E2 through E4. There are no reports from board-appointed district committees, employee organizations, or other district organizations. We are now at item E5, closed session, expulsion actions. Mr. Hernandez.
The board voted unanimously to accept a hearing panel's recommendation for 2 expulsion in case numbers M35 and S52.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hernandez. We now move to item F, visitor comments. Mr. Kern? There are comments, right? I would like to remind the public that the comments are limited to 2 minutes. The clock on the screen counts down the time. Under the Ralph M. Brown Act, the board is not allowed to comment on items that are not on the agenda, so we are not ignoring your comments. We just can't respond to any individual comments. The superintendent can refer items to staff who can follow up with you. Mr. Kern will assist with the comments.
So our first speaker will be Rachel Catan, followed by Gus Murphy.
All right, thank you. I am reading this comment on behalf of Marina Gable, who's not able to be here tonight. Each board member and superintendent of the San Juan Unified School Board have been served declarations requesting response. This happened last week on the 16th, 17th, and 18th of May of 2022. The amount of declarations served upon each board member and superintendent represents people from all over the district unhappy with your bad decision-making. Each declaration will be investigated, holding you personally accountable for breaking federal law. Kent Current received 116 declarations, Paula Velasquez received 118, Zima Creason 117, Mike McKibben received 118, Pam Costa 118, Saul Hernandez received 115. You have all chosen to support the governor's unconstitutional mandates made under the guise of public health. If you do not respond in 10 days, it is admittance of wrongdoing. You are agreeing to all charges being brought against you. All declarations will be turned into the standing sheriff. We have attempted in many ways to resolve these matters, but our voices have gone unheard. The abuses brought upon the children of this district, as well as the staff, from loss of education, no choice, masking and testing, coercion, COVID clinics, etc. This is your last day to do the right thing. Thank you.
Gus Murphy, followed by Jeffrey Perrine.
Thank you for the time. I want to start by saying I met that gentleman earlier. It's actually pronounced Perrine. You all weren't here except for thank you, Dr. McKibben. I spoke at 5:30 p.m. reiterating my distaste for, while legal, admittedly, school board members taking, like Ms. Viasquez, taking money from the labor unions and then going into closed session and supposedly bargaining against them. It represents a clear conflict of interest. But I want to speak now about something I spoke about last week. You're supposed to want to hear your community, and this is one way, and thank you for the time to do this. But the other way, for all the parents who are out in the community making it great, some of them even doing extracurricular activities for your very school, don't have the opportunity to be here. So if you're gonna post it on YouTube, let's open up the comments. Let's see what the community really thinks. My gut feeling tells me, and I may be wrong, I hope I am, that you don't actually want to hear them, because I think we all know what they'd say, right? So that's why you're doing it. But I'm sure that IT or whoever needs to do it could easily just go ahead and click that enable comment button and really hear what the community has to say for those who can't be here. Yeah, other than that, I just want to say that everything Marina Gable just said, yeah, if that does go through, there is precedent where the sheriff's office is required to investigate wrongdoing, and hopefully if they find something, appropriate action will be taken. So for those of you who have actually helped children, appreciate you. Thank you.
Jeffrey Perrine, followed by Patricia Hughes. No, they'll control it. It's on.
There we go. My name is Jeffrey Perrine. I'm a resident. I have children that attend the San Juan Unified School District. I came here a few weeks ago. I was talking about accountability. I'm running for office as a legislator in Assembly District 7. I just wanted to let you guys know, here's the board. My goal is to continue to bring accountability. I want to let people know when they're doing things that are presumed legal, or they're looked at as legal, but your community has a problem with it. There's this thing called ethics, right? And people have conflict of interest. And when there's this murmur going around the internet that people are being paid by one group and they're supposed to go bargain for their pay, it kind of frustrates people. So when I see Mrs. Velasquez here on the board and she claims to be, partisan and she's supposed to be fighting for the kids, but at the same time taking money from the teachers union, it's hard to believe because the teachers union is the one promoting the masks, and I see you here as the only one wearing a mask. They're also the ones that are forcing the vaccines and all these other things that are what are on these legal documents you've been served with. So I think it's just in your best interest as well as the community that you do what you should, and you should pull away from taking money from unions. You should try to do what's best for the community and the kids. You shouldn't be worried about big money influence. I'm a prime example of that. I'm running for office and I've received 0 campaign donations. I don't ask. All I ask is for people to spread my name. I fight for the children in all these different school board meetings. I come and tell people exactly how I feel and how the community feels. I just want you guys to know that I will continue to come and I will preach accountability and fiscal responsibility. And I hope you guys answer the questions that I asked about last time, which was graduation rates and why more kids are graduating while the test scores are going down. I'd like that to be brought up in the minutes and the following, whenever you guys can respond. So that's what I would like to hear in the future. And that's what I have to say tonight. Thank you very much.
Patricia Hughes, followed by Max Bonilla.
Hello, everyone. My name is Patricia, and I've been an educator at a local preschool for 7 years now. And my number one priority is to protect the safety of our children. And I am very concerned and will be very upset if the mask mandate for our children will come back during the fall. There are so many reasons as to why placing a mask on a child's face is completely unnecessary, such as N95s are the only type of mask that apparently helps prevent getting COVID, and there is no such thing as a pediatric N95. Also, N95 masks are not designed for children, let alone meant to be worn for countless hours a day. The most important evidence as to why we should never put masks on our children is the fact that they have a 99.997% survival rate. Let me state that again, 99.997%. Therefore, it is completely unnecessary to enforce this mask mandate again, let alone ever. In addition, the science has shown that masks can interfere with young children's brain development, which can make it harder to hear, understand speech, and to identify facial expressions and emotions when others wear masks around them, as well as speech delays, lack of confidence and self-esteem, anxiety, and severe depression can occur from wearing masks. I just graduated last week with my AA in speech language pathology assistance because I want to aid the damage of speech delays that have occurred from the use of these masks in our schools. Not to mention, suicide rates have gone up according to the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, which has declared a national state of emergency with children's mental health. As you can see here, clearly the masks do more harm than good. We are advocating for choice. So if someone wants to put a mask on their child's face, that's great. And if they don't want their child to wear a mask, then their choice needs to be respected as well. Lastly, Paula, please put the children first and keep the money for them. Thank you and God bless.
Our last speaker is Max Bonilla.
2 years ago, I used to watch these meetings online on YouTube. And my name is Max Bonilla. By the way, I was a student here about a year ago. And Buffy Wicks in the state legislature in the assembly are now considering mental health bills that have to do with social media. But to me, they should have thought of that when we decided to close the schools down. You had Newsom's grade 7 through 12 vaccination executive order that's now been delayed. And I want to remind you that you guys are doing this for the people, even if your compensation is little. You're serving neighborhood people. And in LAUSD, the graduation rates are very low because UTLA, they're the union behind everything that the district does and all the decisions they make. And unfortunately, many teachers' unions are working with the state. And unfortunately, many people are running for these offices to go higher and higher and higher. Like, for example, they'll start in school board, and then they'll go to state senate, and then they'll go even higher. They'll try to run for Secretary of State. And so this is kind of the start of a political career for some people, and that is the last thing we want. We want average, everyday parents who send their children to school to be on these boards. And I know Paula previously served as an assistant secretary for the California Health and Human Services Agency in the administration of Governor Newsom. We need you guys to fight for us, not more yes men for Gavin Newsom. And I agree with the earlier statement about a conflict of interest. When you're negotiating pay outside of your compensation with the teachers' unions, it's a huge problem. And I had an issue in virtual learning. I find that a lot of students were mentally affected and in an extremely negative way. And that, you know, in chemistry, rather than teaching chemistry, you're teaching about, you know, race and skin color and, you know, sexual education even at a very young age, and you're teaching people to hate each other. And so that is the last thing I want. Thank you, board, for giving me a chance to speak, just real briefly.
Thank you very much. We now move to the consent calendar, which is item G. Are there any speaker cards on the consent? Okay, all right. All right. Ms. Creason.
I just want to pull item G17 from consent.
Go.
I would like to pull G17 from
G,
consent.
pull G17 from the speaker, and that, and now we have, I see.
Well, what we'll do is we'll move the other items first, and then we'll come back to G17, and then we'll allow Mr. Camarda to provide some feedback, and then we'll go to the visitor comment after that.
I'd like to make a motion to approve items G1 through G16 and items G18 and G19.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded for items G1 through G16, G18, and G19 to be on the consent calendar. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it is unanimous. Those items are approved on the consent calendar. Now we move to G17, and Ms. Creason.
Thank you very much, President McKibben, President Dr. McKibben, and thank you, Mr. Camarda, for joining us. So just a heads up to my colleagues and to community. I personally received quite a few emails and requests for phone calls about this item, G17, so I did connect with staff and asked for staff to be prepared to answer some of these questions, and so we can have some open dialogue about this item. I know that we also received through the visitor comment process, the remote visitor comment process, I know we received some comments prior to the meeting as well. So I think that it'd be great if we could start with Mr. Camarda's comments. I do have a couple of thoughts. I don't know, well, let me ask, should I start with my thoughts or should we pass it to Mr. Camarda first?
Either way is fine with me.
Okay. Maybe if you could, let's start with you with just explaining what the item is and the intent, and then maybe we can roll back and address some of the comments I received.
Yeah, the item is the superintendent's recommendation to approve the categorical exemption for a modernization project at Rio High School on a current and existing building.
So, Mr. Camarda, I believe you've seen some of the comments and the concerns. A lot of it seems to be very focused on parking issues throughout the community. And I think from my read, it might be two separate issues. I may be wrong. that need to be addressed. And so if I'm understanding correctly, some of the concern that I was receiving from community was that the CEQA exemption would be kind of skirting a larger issue having to do with parking in the community. It's my understanding after talking with staff that there really are two separate issues, because what we're requesting is true. There's no fraud, no fraudulent statements were made in the attachment that's been made available, that we are not seeing this making the problem worse. But then there's a whole other issues that we need to talk about regarding parking. So I don't want to minimize that issue because it is an issue.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Cruz, for bringing that up. I think there are two separate issues. We have been working, we put a working group together a couple of weeks ago, Principal Cliff Kelly, myself, and the county. Hearing the neighbors' concerns about parking, it is an issue for us to look at and determine if there are some mitigation efforts we can do to mitigate some of the pressures that are occurring within the Rio neighborhood around Rio High School. There are two separate issues. There's going to be no significant impact to parking due to this modernization project. These are mostly interior modifications, minor construction, and I can explain a little bit about that and give you a little bit of context around the project and what that entails. So I do think we're conflating two different issues, one of the parking issue and one of the scope and magnitude of the career technical education, which we call tenant improvements. Those are these interior type improvements to meet the needs of the curriculum of two existing programs in there. So I can give you some context around that. Okay. So what we have at Rio High School is we have two current industry-focused career technical pathways. One of them is our manufacturing and product development robotics program, and the second one is our health science and medical technology medical assisting program. Both of those programs are operating in old industrial arts types spaces. One is operating in a metal shop, wood shop, and some are operating in small, undersized, and inadequate classroom spaces for the type of curriculum and type of focus they're trying to provide to the students. The spaces right now are not conducive to that. They are, which we would call educationally inadequate for the type of focus that the teachers are trying to provide. So the type of modernization that we're conducting is, again, interior reconfigurations of the spaces. We're providing new technology, new infrastructure upgrades to support the various types of different types of equipment. For the medical program, different types of equipment. For the robotics and product manufacturing career technical pathway. We're doing some minor additions to the outside interior, some minor landscaping, irrigation, painting. On the interiors, again, we're doing carpet and furniture, and some wall graphics and stuff like that, just to really dress up the interior of the classroom. So the majority of that work is going to be constructed inside the building. Now, we do have one area that we will be providing a new fire line. By code, we have to put in a fire suppression system. So that's the magnitude of that particular project. There will be some construction starting after we finalize the CEQA notice of exemption. And I don't have an exact start date. I can defer to Mr. Arps on that. But what we do, I have understood that we did get public comment from this. I read the public comment on on this, and I'd like to address the board in this manner. And I'd also like to make a statement as a matter of public record and give the notice of exemption, an updated copy of that to the board at this meeting. The public comment refers to something called unusual circumstances. The project site is an existing high school. It's in a residential neighborhood, both of which have been there for decades. And this is not an unusual location for a high school because public schools are typically close to or within the neighborhoods that they serve. Secondly, they are no particular unique features of the school or the surrounding neighborhood or the planned modernization work that would support the characterization of an unusual circumstance here. And then finally, the action recommended for the board's approval is that technology and interior modernization, which also does not entail any unusual construction methods, construction staging, construction duration, or any unique features that make it different than similar types of updates or repairs or modernizations to other existing facilities or schools contemplated in Class 1, Class 2, and Class 14 categorical exemptions. Our neighbors' concern and complaints about the availability of parking on public streets that are surrounding the school and their property are not environmental impacts that are recognized under CEQA, nor are such perceived social or economic inconvenience as unusual. The CTE project does not occur in nor would create any unusual circumstances, and therefore exception C of the CEQA guidelines, section 15300.2, does not apply here or disqualify the project from tonight's claimed exemptions.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. We have 3 speakers. If you, do you want to talk or you want to go ahead?
Can I keep going? Okay. That was really helpful. I appreciate it. And so what I'm hearing is a few things, but we're not foreseeing this to cause more issues to the parking situation. Am I hearing that?
That's correct. We're not expanding capacity. We're just dealing with 2 existing career technical programs. We're providing facilities that are conducive to the medical facility and the robotics and the product manufacturing. We're not expanding enrollment. It's just existing.
Okay, and then if you can, and sorry to put you on the spot, and if you don't know the answer, I apologize, but the CEQA journey. So for us as a board to approve this waiver, we're not the final say, if I understand correctly. We approve this waiver, but really it's up to the powers that be to say, yeah, you're in compliance, right? This isn't the end of it.
No, we make the determination, and it is up to the board to approve that determination based on the findings. And in your packet, I think it's attachment. In the attachment, you will find the categorical exemption on how we support the categorical exemption on the project. We had to make the following findings. That's in the last paragraph, 1, 2, and 3 of page 2 of your attachment. It will be filed with the county after
That's
the
what I was getting
board.
at.
Yeah, it'll be filed with the county after the board approves of the determination of notice of exemption.
And thank you for that. And I think that's what I was getting at. It's not that we as a board approve it and then it goes in our own personal file. Like, it does go to another level of government and sits there, because CEQA does not just live in our district. That's not just us. We just have to comply by it.
That is correct, yeah.
Okay, I have a series of notes based on emails that I've seen, but I know I've talked a lot. President McKibben, do you want me to step back so others can speak before I dive into this, or should I dive into this?
That you're on a roll.
Okay, I'm going to keep on rolling then. So a couple things I just want to note. So I appreciate very much the many people that have reached out. I love when community reaches out. I do have to say I'm really sad that it sounds like council was already contacted. And so I just want folks to know, once you lawyer up, it makes it really hard to have a one-on-one dialogue about this. And I really wish we were able to talk about it ahead of time. And I could share, and because we're on dais and this is an agenda item, I am able to share a few things. But it's going to be hard to have one-on-one conversations now. I have talked to the superintendent about the parking issue, and we have explored some options. Can't get into all the weeds there because it is an issue. I don't want to say it's not an issue. It is. You know, we're talking about Rio, which is a community that has access to, you know, the kids have cars, a lot of cars they are driving. And then we get to the end of the school year, you have more kids driving because they got their license. And I can only imagine how annoying that could be. So I want to acknowledge that it's an issue. And if my ask to the superintendent is, what can we do to improve the situation? Is there any area, I even brought up, can we just go up and make a garage? I'm sure the neighborhood would hate that. No one likes it when I let that come out of my mouth, but I'm willing and ready to explore. I do have some ideas, and I'm not going to just think with my mouth up here right now, but I just want to let the community know I heard you, and I really wish that we were able to have this conversation before I got that lawyer note, because this is the first time it ever came to me. I also want to remind community that although I do represent Area 3, I am not the only board member representing you. That's not how any of this works. We did go to by area, but I am only one board member and I am only one vote. So I highly, highly recommend in the future that, of course, send your messages to me. I'm here for you, but send it to my colleagues too, because they only saw what came through public comment. I got multiple messages that were only sent to me, and that creates a situation where I'm not going to forward it on because it could create a Brown Act issue, because it was on the agenda if they reply to me. So I just want to let folks know, I know we're all kind of going to have to get used to the by area way of doing things. I'm here for you, but I highly, highly recommend that you also loop in the rest of the board too. And I think the way to do that is boardmembers@sanjuan.edu. Please correct me if I'm wrong. If you email boardmembers@sanjuan.edu, it hits all of our inboxes and the superintendents, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a real, one stop. don't leave it just on me, because I'm only one vote. They don't give me the checkbook, and I don't get to make all the decisions on my own. So it is really helpful when we're all on the same page and all hear from our community. We have made a commitment as a board that when we went to buy area, we represent this full district, and we are going to maintain that approach. I want to agree that, yeah, parking is an issue. Want to continue to explore with staff. Really would love to explore with community. Hope we can do that if, lawyers aren't involved, but if the lawyers are involved, then they have to talk amongst themselves. I can't jump into that. Want to be realistic that even though we're exploring options, again, it's a community that has a whole lot of cars. So I don't want to leave, the dais today with folks thinking, oh, they're going to solve the issue 100%. I don't know. I want to make it better and see what we could do. Can we incentivize more carpooling, more ride your bike to school day? I don't know. I've been brainstorming some ideas, but I don't want to leave an unrealistic idea that this is just going to be magically solved by the next school year, because it probably won't be. But you do absolutely have my commitment to work on it. I think that's probably enough for me right now. Oh, I did want to note, too, that there was quite a bit, sorry, Dr. McKibben, there was quite a bit of misinformation in some of the emails that I received, and I didn't want to go back with a tick for tack, but I do want to say, anytime we could have a conversation, I really invite that. If we could have a phone call and have a conversation, and we can ask each other questions and have that dialogue and bring in staff and really just have those conversations, it'll go a whole long way, because there was a lot of real misinformation about the sale of parking spots, who is responsible for what, who is represented by our district. There was a name thrown in there as if they represent the district, and they don't. So I just want to encourage folks, if we could I'm always open to have a phone call. If we could do that, I think we could go a lot further together. I'm done rolling.
Mr. Hernandez.
Thank you, Ms. Creason, for your comments. Mr. Camarda, when I saw this, I immediately went to Del Campo. And at Del Campo, we had rooms in the back that were old, they were lame, they were the wood shop, they were run down, and we renovated, modernized, put our CTE in that building, and now they have a fire technical program along with broadcast and robotics in this room, and it is beautiful, and it is state of the art, and for me, I highly recommend anybody who's questioning this project, go look at Del Campo and see what they have new. And I promise you, you will be enlightened what Rio will get. That campus will be better. It will be newer. Your kids will enjoy it, and they will appreciate what that modernization will look like. Now I ask you, Mr. Camarda, am I right in that thinking?
You are correct. I think as this board heard at the last board meeting, all the career technical pathway updates had been given. Del Campo was a highlight of that. Also Casa Roble with their MedScore Academy. We're doing a construction pathway potentially over at Encina. So we are making, this board, the superintendent, this cabinet, are making investments in career technical pathway facilities, using our older industrial arts buildings, the past, like wood shops, auto shops, metal shops, and bringing them up to new standards of what the career technical pathway offerings are now. So yes, you will see that at Rio, and you will see that at other school sites as we continue down the journey to provide new facilities for career technical pathways.
Mr. Camarda, I serve as liaison to the facility committee in our district, and we're actually going to meet the next meeting at Del Campo. This group committee is going to tour Del Campo, and the highlight of that tour will be the CTE building. I recommend any parent, community, real parent, come join us. Come look at this facility, and I promise you may have a different opinion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Kern, will you read the names of the three speakers?
Yeah, before we do that, I just wanted to provide one more piece of information for the board. There's been some just comments, and I know we're between parking and the CEQA issue here, but I asked for a 10-year snapshot of enrollment, and I actually got more than that. Our current enrollment on 9/3/21 was 1,935. On 8/24/1998, 20-some years ago, the enrollment was 1,933, which was 2 less than we currently have. So there have been times. We are about 250 students more than we were on 2010 though. So we've seen growth, we've seen kind of highs and lows, but, and I believe that we've even expanded the parking. I asked Mr. Camarda to dig up some history on that later from where we were in 1998, but I just wanted to provide that for context to the board as well. So at this time, we do have 3 speaker cards. So I will call, first is Don Myers, followed by Victoria, and I'm gonna say Hoppy, if I mispronounce it, I apologize, followed by Daryl Lewis. So Mr. Myers, you were first.
Good evening. Thank you for letting us speak on this topic. I'm going to jump ahead past the parking since we're starting to address that, but I came here today to ask for a postponement on the approval of the project and CEQA exemption until the public has had a chance to review the possible impacts they claim can't exist. The category claim that there is no possible way for any negative environmental impacts is flat out crazy for any project in the state of California. No city, no county would ever give this exemption. We're asking for time to review the information that has not been shared with the public. There's no information about the location of the project, no information about any sound studies that should have been or were prepared for the 10 new air handlers 50 feet from the neighborhood, the 2 high horsepower exhaust fans with no sound shielding 50 feet from the nearest residence, where the 2 planned portable classrooms are proposed to go. There's no land left on the campus, so they're gonna go somewhere, likely taking up parking spots. There is no information on what's gonna happen 7 months from now when this project's still going, where those 30, 40 construction trucks are gonna park, displaced students. There's no information about the other information listed in there. There's clearly information about intensification of student in these buildings. The architectural plans clearly show more desks, more locations for students. The classrooms are permanent. That means more classrooms, more students, and complete contradiction of what's been stated. We'd also like to get a copy of the 2010 EIR to see if the campus has violated any of the required mitigation methods by selling spaces to individual students and taking them out of use by.
Thank you very much.
Next is Victoria Hoppy, followed by Daryl Lewis.
Hi there. I've been a neighbor of Rio for close to 20 years. Our kid went to Rio. I'm just going to give a little bit of background. We are immediate neighbors next to the school. 180 days a year, 5 days a week, 7:30 to 3 o'clock, we are bumper to bumper all the way down our street. We have visitors, family members want to come visit. They park blocks away from our residence. I have students that are parking backwards on the street. They're having sex in their cars. I've seen drug deals. It's gotten out of control. They're now going on people's property, vandalizing things. I'm all for these students going to school and getting an education. If the neighborhood has to grow with this school, why does the school not have to give us the same respect? Quite honestly, everybody keeps ignoring us. We have reached out to multiple different people, and it's the finger-pointing game currently. Not our problem, says the principal. They're not on school grounds. He's also told us that's what you get for buying next to a school. This has not always been the case. We have had a beautiful, wide-open neighborhood. It's the last 5 years that it has got completely out of control. We have tried to contact the principal to work with him. We've come up with possible ideas. It's a drought in California. Take out your big, beautiful lawn, take down those trees, put in some parking spots. I mean, that's simple. They're not even willing to talk about it. The principal in the past used to go around the neighborhood. They would just make their presence known. Students move along, go to the school. This principal won't even have nothing to do with the neighborhood anymore. He just ignores us. There's no response to the situations that are going on in the neighborhood. The campus is supposedly be a closed campus. Every single day you can look at your camera, and neighbors have put up cameras.
Thank you very much.
Daryl Lewis.
Hello, I'm Daryl Lewis, a member of the community, and I live a short block from Rio Americano High School, so you can guess what I'm going to talk about. As a retired Superior Court judge and private mediator, I'm accustomed to presenting to other people solutions. Now, we don't have a solution for this. I come to you today with a very serious problem. My neighbors and I need you to find the solution. I'm preparing a petition that I had intended to present to Principal Cliff Kelly at Rio. I'm not going to do it for several reasons now, but I just heard about this meeting yesterday, so I decided instead to present this petition to your board directly. The Rio students have started congesting our streets adjacent to the high school with their parked cars. As noted in the bolded print on the petition, this could well result in litigation if something isn't done by the school district. We are not sure what has happened, but we assume that there has been an increase in the student population in the last few years. Many of us have lived there for 30, 40 years, and we've never in our memory experienced such a jam of parked cars in our neighborhood. We have photos of cars parked on the sidewalks, too close to fire hydrants, heading in the wrong direction, parked in the street. We have witnessed street cleaners prevented from cleaning the streets and garbage trucks being unable to pick up their cans. House cleaners and construction workers have been unable to park closely enough to conveniently get their tools and materials into the houses. As I said, I'm accustomed to solving problems, and I know that this is not a simple problem. But in this case, our community must rely on your board to find the solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. I think we'll move. Is there a motion to approve item G17? We'll have a discussion period after, if we get a motion in a second. Is there a second?
There will be discussion afterwards, after a motion.
Yes, there
and
will be
second?
discussion.
Okay, I'll second.
All right, there has been a move by Mr. Hernandez, seconded by Ms. Villesquez. Is there a discussion? Ms. Villesquez.
First, thank you to staff for presenting a more, allowing for more information to be presented. And thank you as well to those who've come out this evening as to voice some of the concerns that have clearly been an ongoing issue within your community. I did hear throughout the presentation and discussion, though, a discussion about our very specific consent item and then an entirely other and very large issue around parking that I think is going to exist separate from this project or not. And so my question is, is there room for both, to both have this project move forward as planned, but for either as a separate or future board item or agenda item, have a more robust discussion and perhaps bring forward some suggestions to address the parking issue that I just want to make sure I want everyone to know I heard you. I'm not trying to dismiss it in the slightest. And in fact, is there a way to both move the project forward and have that discussion happen concurrently?
So I think there is. I think they are two separate issues because we've got to look at the parking issue through a different lens. And as Ms. Creason said, we've been having some conversations about that. I actually visited the school last Thursday or Friday. I can't remember which day it was. Had a conversation, drove around the school property, the neighborhood as well. So there are some potential solutions. I know Mr. Camarda is already looking at some potential solutions in the back of the school where there's an old building that we're looking at removing to create more parking spots. But there's more than that as well. I know there's been some conversations about could we go up? I will share with community members that ask about that. I actually read to Ms. Creason tonight an item that came to this board in 2010 around a stadium and lights, to which there was some extreme opposition to even lights and the visual, what's the word I'm looking for, pollution that created. And so that may be a solution that some think. It's probably unlikely because there could be significant neighbors that would be opposed to that. There may be significant neighbors that would be opposed to us taking out green space and trees. I think really what we need to do is look at trying to go out into the community and have a conversation. What other solutions could we hear from them and could we possibly pursue? And I think that's something that, Mr. Camarda, we could commit to really trying to engage the community around this. There's some other practices that occur at the school in terms of those spaces. I had sent an email to Ms. Schnepp today trying to gather some more information as well, because the day that I drove out there, if a student has a reserved spot but they're not there, that space is vacant. Well, that doesn't really help us when kids are getting there for first period. So there's a larger conversation that we need to have about that as well. I have a feeling that generates some revenue and benefits for our PTSA, but it's a conversation that we need to have. So I think there's a much deeper conversation, probably even involving the county and others about the parking issue as well. So,
Mr. Hernandez.
Thank you, Ms. Paula. Ms. Vasquez, I think you hit it right on the head. I think we were talking about two different things. To me, again, I would never want to hold up making our school better to see what is going to be discussed or maybe even approved about parking. I agree we need to talk about parking and to the community. I've been on this board for 11, 12 years. Every time we put a brand new school or modernize a building, parking is always discussed at every single site. We are good neighbors. Frank has done a great job, and I'm sure he will discuss with you your concerns, but I would never want to hold up our kids at Rio getting a better facility because of this parking discussion. So I commend my colleagues for wanting to advise Mr. Camarda and his staff to go out and meet with these community members, do what we can, see if we can fix this parking, but this is a whole nother thing. I say we move as fast as we can for the school, these kids at Rio, and have this beautiful renovated CTE building as soon as possible. Thank you.
Ms. Greason.
I agree with my colleagues. It's two separate issues, and so I was taking notes during public comment, and again, I really appreciate the community bringing it to our attention, and I wish that we were able to have this discussion a little sooner and not from the dais. But it sounds like we're talking about the parking, we're talking about behaviors. Things have just gotten wild over the last 5 years, and I think that that is pretty universal in our society right now. That needs to be addressed, so I don't want to minimize any of that. That's all huge. But I see this as separate and apart. And I heard one public comment that was more specific to concerns and questions about the renovation. But I think I'm missing something. When I heard you speak, Mr. Camarda, it sounded like most of this is really internal. You know, it's just making the buildings that we have better. So, you know, community members may remodel their kitchen. They don't ask for permission. You just do it. It sounds like it's similar. It's not like a new building that we've done all over the place. This is remodeling something that already exists.
Yes, that's correct. It's
And
not taking up
landscaping.
any larger footprint. It is not expanding enrollment. It's just modernizing the interiors of the campus. Yes, there'll be new air handlers. There will be new exhaust fans. Those are indicative to the existing to those particular programs. Some of the same equipment existed prior to that. If you're to look at the automotive shop or the wood shop or the metal shop, so some of those types of equipment existed. We have new modern equipment coming in, much more energy efficient, much quieter. So those are some of the existing conditions. We'll bring in new condition spaces.
And I did hear a concern that the modernization may take away parking spots. Is that?
Temporarily, there will not be 30, 40, 50 trucks on site. This is a minor compared to the construction laydown yards we typically have on larger modernization projects. The bulk of that work will be done in the first few months, and then it'll scale down from there. There'll be some parking spaces taken in the back. Those are typically teachers' parking spaces. Not a lot. We're not talking about touching any of the student parking. It'll be on a very temporary nature. I do think we're talking about two different issues. When it came across the superintendent's desk a few weeks ago, he immediately gave it to me, and I started the conversations immediately about the parking with the county, with Principal Kelly, and also have had some conversations with some of the neighbors on the phone about some of the things that we can potentially be looking at to try to mitigate some of those efforts. So I have a little bit of homework to do. The superintendent's tasked me with that. I will look into the historical numbers. I'll look into when the parking lots were expanded, and I'll also look into what type of effort we can do on the campus that will potentially provide additional spaces. Will it be 100%? I can't guarantee or promise that. There's a lot of kids that drive at Rio High School. We have 500 parking spaces right now. There are the other behavioral issues or the other issues of selling spaces that need to be looked into as well. But I do think there is a happy medium if we do our part in looking and seeing what we can do to relieve some of the pressures in the surrounding neighborhoods. So I've been tasked with that, and I will take that on, and I will report that back to the superintendent.
Ms. Creason, I can say too, and I appreciate the communications that we've had. We are committed to trying to find as many solutions as we can. I don't know that we can fix all of the issues. I think even if we look at the cycle of schools, at the start of the school year, you have your seniors, you have your juniors, and then as the course of the school year, you have sophomores who get their driver's license. I think it even becomes more and more of a problem as the year is going on. I think there are some things we can do to help it a little bit, but then there are the more long-term, even that area in the back. When I went back, that's where I parked last time. There were 15 or 20 available spots back there. I actually think we need to move the staff back there right away and free up spots. And so there are some things we can do, but that's still, I don't know how many cars are on the street on the average day. There are a significant number, and we want to do everything we can to try and reduce that, so.
No, I appreciate that. So I'm comfortable moving forward. I agree. The kids need their space modernized. It's an old school, and we got to give them an appropriate educational environment. That's very important. We also have to do all that we can to be good neighbors and try to do something about this parking issue. But it sounds like there are a lot of good ideas, and there's only 9 days left of school, and so we have a whole summer to figure something out. So if I'm hearing correctly, there is commitment from the board and the staff to address the part, dig into the parking issue further to make it better. And I'm prepared to vote.
Thank you. I'm going to talk first, though, okay? That I believe this is two different issues. What the motion and the second are about is the California Environmental Quality Notice of Exemption. That is all that we're voting on now. We have a commitment by Mr. Camarda, Mr. Kern, and the board that we will continue to look at the various other issues here. But the issue on the table now is the CEQA exemption, and I suggest that we move to a vote on that. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? That was unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We now move to the business items of the evening. The first business item is Expanded Learning Opportunities Program Plan. And this is Dr. Calvin and team.
Well, once again, good evening, President McKibben, members of the board, Superintendent Kern, and Ms. Cunningham. Expanded learning programs provide academic support, enrichment, and social emotional growth opportunities to thousands of San Juan students outside of traditional school hours. New state funding through the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program will allow us to significantly increase the number of students currently served throughout San Juan Unified School District. Director of Student Support Services Dominic Cavello and Manager of After School and Prevention Programs Debbie Middleton are here to update the board on the additional state funding received and to share and discuss our plans for expansion. And with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Calvin, and good evening. ELOP, or the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program, is the state's new allocation and investment for districts to provide structured, expanded learning programs outside of traditional school hours. Expanded learning programs include activities such as academic enrichment, tutoring support, social emotional learning, homework assistance, recreation, and more. While similar in name, ELO-P should not be confused with the ELO grant funding that's been received due to the pandemic. The largest amount of statewide funding in ELO-P has been set aside for those districts with the highest percentage of students on free or reduced lunch, with a minimum threshold of 80% or more unduplicated. The remaining funds were then distributed by a formula to districts below the 80% mark, based on student enrollment and free and reduced lunch numbers. San Juan Unified currently has been allocated approximately $7.1 million annually. The ELO-P allocation is ongoing, and the funding is also projected to increase in coming years. ELO-P contains several program requirements that must be adhered to. Most notably, while expanded learning programs are open to any student, each district must prioritize access to at least 50% of their students on free and reduced lunch, foster youth, McKinney-Vento, and English learners in grades TK through 6th. Program placement must then be targeted at those sites to help meet that 50% and above access requirement. The expanded learning components of the program must also minimally be equivalent to the state's after-school education and safety grant-funded program, ACES, which in San Juan would be those currently in place in our Bridges after-school program. The specifics of those requirements are documented in greater detail in the larger ELO-P plan included in the board materials tonight, but generally focus on the type of enrichment and expanded learning activities that must be offered. ELO-P programs must also offer a minimum 9-hour continuous school day to students attending. For example, if a school's start and end time totals a 6.5-hour school day, the expanded learning hours must be a minimum of 2.5 additional hours of daily programming. Students participating in ELO-P must also be offered an additional 30 days of expanded learning outside of the traditional school calendar, such as summer school. Additional recommendations from the state, as well as local district considerations, have also been taken into account in creating our initial plan. This includes state recommendations to utilize this funding to create a comprehensive expanded learning program district-wide. Instead of creating something new or separate, the state recommendation is to expand or add to existing district after-school programs. Primarily, this would include expanding our current Bridges program, but it also includes the future possibility of funding individual site-coordinated clubs and enrichment programs, as well as supplementing seats and other extended day district programs, such as Discovery Club, as long as those programs meet the minimum state requirements. In addition, with the acknowledgement that district staffing may be limited, the state has also strongly encouraged creating partnerships and contracts with community partners to help provide expanded learning services and supports for our students. Our planning also took into consideration programming at those mid and high-density sites who will be impacted the greatest next year by later start times at the elementary level, along with those sites with projected new or expanded TKK classes. In the creation of San Juan's initial plan, many feedback loops were created to collect voices from across our district. This started with the creation of the district's Expanded Learning Leadership Work Group, which included regular meetings and conversations with district leaders, feedback from our site administrators and staff members, the gathering of student and family input from individual sites, regular meetings with human resources and our collective bargaining partners who may be impacted, as well as community partners, senior leadership, and cabinet. The timeline set forth by the work group is highlighted here. Beginning in October 2021, when state ELO-P allocations were initially announced, the district's work group held initial discussions and planning around our programs. This included representation from Bridges After School, Discovery Club, leaders from our elementary division, educational services, human resources, enrollment, facilities, and more. Community partner engagement soon followed with the YMCA and the California Teaching Fellows Foundation, as both groups have extensive experience in assisting other districts in the state with after-school program options. In February, the elementary division began collecting feedback from site administrators, school staff, parents, and students regarding specific needs at sites. This included conversations regarding current wait lists in Bridges or Discovery Club, the possibility to expand district or site-led programs, and additional site needs based on new start and end times. Program planning regarding staffing changes with our collective bargaining partners were also held February through April, and the draft ELOP plan was submitted to senior leadership and cabinet for discussion in the spring. The final draft of the plan includes 6 high-level additions and changes. The first focuses on staffing and reclassifying current after-school program staff as expanded learning staff. This step aligns with state recommendations to create a single, comprehensive, expanded learning district program. In addition, a new job description of expanded learning programs assistant now provides for salaried employees in the Bridges program rather than relying on hourly part-time aides. The changes in staffing also seek to retain and recruit qualified staff to serve as many students as possible. Second, the plan calls for expanding and adding seats to all existing Bridges programs in grades TK through 8th. Current programs at 27 elementary, K-8, and middle schools will expand their capacity by adding enrollment in each of their programs and reducing current wait lists. For example, programs currently capped at 84 seats will expand by 20 to 40 or more seats contingent upon demand, staffing, and space availability. The plan also calls for adding expanded learning programs at 8 new sites: Arlington Heights, Cowan, Oakview, Schweitzer, Sierra Oaks, Trajan, Woodside, and Arcade. This will now ensure expanded learning programs are located at all mid and high-density schools at the elementary, K-8, and middle school levels. Due to grade level requirements and funding recommendations, there are no current changes to the 2 expanded learning high school programs. Expanded learning after-school programs are traditionally offered after the end of the regular school day. But with ELOP, we have looked to pilot structured morning programs with a partnership with the YMCA at 3 late start elementary schools: Del Paso Manor, Cowan, and Oakview. These sites will offer a 2-hour morning program in addition to after-school hours. The sites were identified for the pilot as being either mid or high density, along with moving the greatest number of minutes to late start school days in 22-23. The enrollment in the pilot programs will be closely monitored to help determine possible expansion of morning program options in the future. In addition, the plan further establishes a community partnership with the California Teaching Fellows Foundation. California Teaching Fellows has a history of supporting over 400 schools in 50 districts throughout the state with staffing and professional development for expanded learning. CTFF focuses on building relationships with local colleges and universities to recruit and hire students who are interested in a future career in education. Once hired, CTFF provides staffing to our programs and monthly training in educationally related topics, with the goal being that these students will ultimately become full-time educators in San Juan. Finally, we will be looking to maximize the ELOP allocations in 2022-23 and beyond by potentially funding seats in Discovery Club, as well as piloting funding for site-based expanded learning clubs and enrichment as long as they meet state requirements. For the 2022-23 school year, a snapshot is provided here of all sites with district-operated expanded learning options, including in the boxes on the left and the center, as well as the additional Discovery Club childcare programs on the right to show the full scope of district extended day options for families and students. The addition of the ELOP funding provides an exciting moment to further reduce barriers and provide greater access to thousands of students to enroll in expanded learning by adding new sites, adding more seats, creating new relationships, and enhancing our collaborative opportunities within the district, within district programs such as Bridges and Discovery Club. Our next steps begin immediately with working to hire more program staff. We will also be monitoring and assessing registration and participation numbers at our new sites, including our before-school pilot programs. We will continue to work towards creating opportunities to fund smaller site-based expanded learning pilots, as well as continue collaborative conversations for supervision needs at elementary schools impacted by start times. Lastly, we'll be looking at the probability to expand ELOP even further in coming years, as current state proposals include substantial funding increases. Thank you for hearing our presentation this evening, and at this time, we are open to any questions or discussion.
Are there any questions or comments? Okay, looks like, oh, Ms. Fiasco.
I was trying not to go first, but I'm happy to do so. First, thank you very much for the presentation. And I wanted to call out specifically the piece that you mentioned. And yes, it's a little bit duplicative, but I just really appreciate building in the consideration for the changes in our site start times. I think when we had that conversation, and while there wasn't, frankly, a lot of public input at the time when we considered it, we knew it was a big deal. I knew it was a big deal. And it was important to sort of support those sites as much as possible, particularly for the families that we knew were going to show up regardless at certain times. So I was really thrilled to see that that's part, both in your presentation and on paper, that that's part of the pilot. And I just wanted to express my gratitude to you and to the team for building that in. So you mentioned quite a few times, right, that they're pilots and we'll continue to evaluate them. Like, what are our metrics for success when we're evaluating them and whether or not to move them forward?
You know, when several years back, there were morning programs piloted in expanded learning after-school programs that weren't as heavily enrolled as they could be or as they thought they might be. So essentially, first and foremost, it's going to be, will the students come? Certainly, it's been voiced as a concern with the later, especially with the school sites that are moving to later start times. So we really want to look at those sites that are mid or high density, because that is called out as a requirement for us to look at those students first as priority, and to work with our community partner YMCA to ramp that up, to promote the program, to see what the enrollment looks like, and to move forward from there. So that's going to be a number one in the first year, is what do enrollment numbers look like.
That's helpful. And I would hope that part of it is, I made a kind of an assumption that it also will hopefully impact positively our attendance rates across the board, like where the pilots are. My only other kind of request or note is that the timeline laid out doesn't quite match up with our regular enrollment timeline. So I just want to make sure that families are aware of the opportunity, because I think most families go to enroll their students and think, I've got it all situated, everything's good to go. If we, depending on how we roll it out to our families, I think that'll just be critical to the participation rate. It doesn't have to be, obviously, if it was happening simultaneously, that would be great, but those timelines don't always match. So just figuring out a way to deliberately make sure that families are aware that it's part of that, I think will be important as well.
We will, we've already, we've certainly had that discussion thus far, and pending board approval. I think our discussions with our community partners, YMCA, as well as with Bridges and California Teaching Fellows, will be to robustly promote with our school sites, as well as contacting current families who are in the program, and just messaging out to eligible students.
Fantastic. I had figured that it was very well thought out, but I wanted to voice that. So I appreciate that, and thank you very much for the report and all the work that has gone into it and will continue to go into it.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Mr. Cavallo, thank you for responding to my questions and so forth, and answering some of the numbers things that I was confused at. I want to follow up on what Ms. Villasquez was talking about in terms of slide number 9 and the YMCA program. You say that is going to be at the pilot at 3 schools, and it's like, and when did you say it was likely to begin?
The plan is for it to begin on day 1 of the new school year.
And in terms of, I may have missed something, but the YMCA portion of it is only related to school start times and those schools that are going later now. Is that correct?
YMCA's pilot involvement with us, with the community partnership, they've had experience with operating both before and after school programs. So
Okay.
yes, for the AM options to begin with, we are looking for them to partner with to run those 3 morning programs at those sites. They will be operating afternoon programs at 2 of those sites. as well.
As well.
As
Okay.
well. And then our Bridges After School program, which currently exists at Del Paso Manor, will continue to operate in the afternoon.
Okay. And you mentioned that the YMCA is doing similar kinds of programs at other places, and I assume that we've looked at them. Can you talk about any that are relatively local that we've looked at?
Yeah, they have partnerships in Twin Rivers and Sac City. So in conversations with both of those districts, they are essentially operating, there are districts that don't run their own Bridges After School program like we do. There are some districts that contract out all of those services. We're fortunate to have Debbie and her team run a fantastic program, and really kind of the conversations that we've had with the other districts sort of mirrors what our Bridges program does. But there's certainly also the realization that staffing is growing a program like this, and staffing a program like this will be difficult to find that many staff. And if we can join with our community partners, CTFF and YMCA, that's going to help drive getting more students into seats.
Yeah, this program and using a community partner makes a great deal of sense, because as we saw the Portantino bill, all I could see was dollar signs in terms of the obligation that we have to provide care for these young people and others during this period of time. This makes a great deal of sense, and I'm really excited to see how the pilot goes, and hopefully we'll be expanding it further than it is. If there is no further comment by the board, this will come back to us on the 14th, I believe.
Coming back on the 14th as consent.
As consent, okay, is that, all right, thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
We move on
Thank
to
you.
item, excuse me, if I can talk, I2.
Okay, well, thank you, President McKibben, members of the board, Superintendent Kern, and Ms. Cunningham. Tonight's item is an action item. It is the adoption of the 2022 Level 1 Developer Fee Justification Study. Before I read the superintendent's recommendation, I'd like to go through a short PowerPoint presentation, open up for questions and discussion that the board might want to have. Let's hope I can figure out how to use this thing. Ooh. There we go. So board members, the purpose of the developer fee justification study is to document that there is a reasonable relationship that exists between residential, commercial, and industrial development and the need for new or modernized facilities within the San Juan Unified School District's respective boundaries. On February 23rd, 2002, the State Allocation Board raised those developer fee, Level 1 developer fee level by 17.45%, probably one of the largest percentages of increase that I've seen over the past 6 years that I've been bringing this to the board every two. So it represents the status of the economy and the RS Means Construction Index on the high cost of construction. Ed Code 17620 allows a school district to assess fees on new residential and commercial construction within their boundaries. Again, because of the high cost of constructing school facilities and the district's limited budget and the overall need demonstrated by our district's master plan, there are outside resources that are required for future school construction and/or reconstruction. It is standard for the State Allocation Board to raise those fees every 2 years. It is also standard for school districts to take a look at their justification studies every 2 to 4 years. I think it's good practice that we do it every 2 years to continue to account for new development and the student yield factor from that new development that comes from residential or commercial development. So within the developer fee justification study, before you levy the fees, you have to address three basic links or nexuses for the need for the facilities and the new development. These nexuses are the burden nexus. The district must identify the number of students they're anticipating to be generated by that residential, commercial, or industrial development. And the district shall identify the facilities and the cost impacts of those students. Second would be the cost nexus. District must demonstrate that the fees that are collected will not exceed the cost of construction. We know that our fees will not because of the overwhelming need that we have within our school district, over $2.5 billion worth of school construction needs. And then finally, the benefit nexus. The district must show the construction or reconstruction of school facilities to be funded by the collection of the developer fees will benefit those students that are generated by that development. The developer fee justification study packet, I think Exhibit A in your board packet today, demonstrates that the San Juan Unified School District requires the full statutory Level 1 fees to accommodate the students that are being generated by that development activity. Just to give the board an indication of what the current fees are, we're currently charging $4.08. That statutory fee on residential property, $4.08 per square foot. The state allocation board increased that to $4.79 per square foot, and that is a net increase of 71 cents from the prior two-year state allocation board statutory requirement. On the commercial projects, the current statutory fee that we charge is 66 cents. Again, the state allocation board raised that fee to 78 cents, again on February 23rd. That's a net increase on commercial project development of 12 cents per square foot. And then there is a fee for rental self-storage. That fee went up 1 cent from 4 cents to 5 cents. This just gives you a quick example of historically what the residential fees have been. Since 2014, this board's been consistent with the state allocation board in raising those fees every 2 years as those Level 1 fees are looked at and increased by, again, the state allocation board. This gives you just a historical perspective of the assessment fees that we've collected over the years since 2014-15. You'll notice in the far right-hand corner of the slide, 2021, we collected about $2.2 million at the time that I put this slide together, and we're looking at collecting about $3.1 million by the end of the school year. And right now, in our developer fee account, we have about $7.7 million in our ending fund balance. This just gives you, the board, an example of the types of residential development that are going on right now within our communities. And there's also the permissible uses of the developer fees. What can we spend that money on? It is, again, the construction and reconstruction of our district facilities. There are costs that are associated with conducting the justification study. We can pay for that through the collection of fees, any other analysis or determinations to adopt the fees, and the administration of those fees, we can charge up to 3% of those fees collected may be expended for the administration of the actual developer fee program. And with that, board members, I can take any questions that the board might have.
Do any board members have questions or comments? Ms. Fiascas.
Between parking and fees, we're really like going old school board topics today. I just wanted to point that out. It's almost refreshing. Thank you for the presentation, and I appreciated the detail also available in the packet. Now, I'm not saying that we have a role here in helping or not helping building the housing, the housing crisis that we're all in the middle of right now. But I do want to note, right, that this is an increase in the cost that it would take to increase residential property capacity. And what was important to me going through the packet was that it was justified in our need and growth, and that we weren't doing it just because we could, but instead because we needed to meet our obligations to our community and to our children for future growth. And so I just wanted to sort of publicly call out page 18 of part of the packet of the fee justification study, right, that kind of points out and does the math that what we would be justified in terms of actual costs moving forward would actually be $5.24 in residential fees that would be justified to keep up with the projected increase here in the next 5 years of $11 million in costs. So I just wanted to make it clear that we're not doing it just because we can, even though now we can. We're doing it out of necessity as well, because our obligation is certainly to our community and to our students. So I wanted to just state that publicly and also say thank you for the thorough both presentation and the report, Mr. Camarda.
Thank you.
Others? Okay. This is an action item, I believe. Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 4021, accepting the 2022 Level 1 Developer Fee Justification Study?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Viasquez, seconded by Ms. Creason. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you very much. I believe you
Thank you.
are up again.
Yes, thank you, President McKibben, board members, Superintendent Kern, and Ms. Cunningham. The board used to be able to take this item in one board item. You would approve the justification study, and you would also approve the increase in the statutory level 1 developer fees. There's been changes in the law. It requires the board to approve the justification study first, and then to approve the increases in the level 1 developer fees. So this is an action item. The superintendent is recommending that the board hold a public hearing for comment and adopt resolution number 4022, updating the district's statutory developer fee pursuant to Education Code 17620, and declaring the change of fees as exempt from the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act.
I declare the topic of the increase in the district's statutory developer fees a public hearing, and it is now open for public comment. And there are no cards that have been brought forward unless, okay. And there are no further comments. I declare and close the public hearing. Do any board members have questions or comments on this item? I'm seeing head shaking. This is an action item. Motion is in order. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Viasquez. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed? And it is unanimous. Thank you very much, Mr. McConnell. This was
Thank you.
very well done on it. We now move to, make sure I'm, move to item 4, School Employees Association proposal for, I'll get it. California School Employees Association, Mr. Thigpen.
Thank you. Good evening, President McKibben, Board Member Superintendent Kern, and Ms. Cunningham. I'm here tonight to present the California School Employees Association Chapter Number 127 proposal for their 2022-23 reopeners. Their proposal was presented to the board for discussion on May 10th, and at this time, I'm happy to answer any questions on their behalf if you have them.
Are there any questions, comments? Thank you. I believe you're up again.
I believe so. I-5 is the district's bargaining interests with the San Juan Professional Educators Coalition for our 2022-23 reopeners. This is for discussion tonight. It'll be back for public comment and action on June 14th, and I can answer any questions you have.
Are there any questions or comments from the board? It appears there are none. Then we will come back with this item on June 14th for public comment and action. We move to I-6, presentation of the district's initial bargaining proposal with SJSA.
Yes, these are the district's bargaining interests with the San Juan Supervisors Association for 2022-23. And again, I can answer any questions you may have.
Any questions or comments? Appears there are none. This item also will be back on the 14th of June for public comment and action. We move to I-7, related to initial bargaining proposal of CSEA.
Thank you. This is our final item from Labor Relations tonight. I'm searching for some synonyms, but I'm coming up empty. This is our bargaining interests for the California School Employees Association, Chapter 127 for our 2022-23 reopeners. And again, if you have any questions on this one, I'm happy to answer them.
Board questions or comments? This item also will return on the 14th of June for public comment and action. And thank you very much for these reports.
Thank you.
This is the end of the business items for the evening. Are there any board reports? Okay, Ms. Creason.
Just a brief one. I can't say it enough tonight. Only 9 days left of school. And so this is our last board meeting during the school year. So well done, everybody. We survived it. Did want to share that CAC had their open house, and I think this was the second one ever. Correct me if I'm wrong. I loved it. There were so many booths, but it was a hot day. I think it's much hotter than it usually is this time of year. So I think folks were pretty hot. But I mean, it was a tremendous, showing of what there is to offer. So that was really great. And CAC had what was supposed to be their last meeting, but a second. A special meeting has to be called for some business just because they didn't hit quorum. But they're close to being done for the year, and did a whole lot of planning, getting ready for next year. So there will be a new president elected. They are working on pulling out priorities. It was a really great meeting, and I'm really proud of the direction that they're moving in. That concludes my report.
I wanted to comment on some events that I attended over the last 2 weeks. The first is the Ray Tolleson Elementary Track Meet, and it was an impressive meet. There were literally hundreds. I have no idea whether it was thousands, but it was certainly hundreds of kids out there. I wanted to congratulate Gary Courtney and all of the teachers who officiated the events, and the hundreds of participants. But I particularly was impressed with the number of mostly middle and high school students that were tutoring and coaching the elementary kids, particularly in the area of high jump, long jump, and shot put, teaching them how to do these sort of things, particularly interested in shot put and making sure their arms weren't going that way and the ball was going that way, because there were times that it was scary. But congratulations and thank you. It's really nice to see elementary track back again in the program, and to see how well this meet was run. Also wanted to comment that Ms. Fiascas and I attended the retirement gathering last week, and it was very nice to see those people and to have them talk, and the number of years of experience that they represented was very impressive. Also wanted to talk about going to Mariloma and going to Pleasantville and so forth. And and it was nice to see that back again and so forth, and watching the various protests and all of the things that the students were doing and having a great time, and looking forward to seeing that again. On Thursday, I too came to the special, and yes, it was hot out there, and that's the thing. Another thing that I did on the same day was the Youth Voice Advocates, and they had their meeting at the Digital Edge, and I must say that of the things that that we have done better this year, the getting students involved and active and advocating and that sort of thing is well up there on that list and that sort of thing. And that was an extremely impressive group of students that were at that one. And then Friday, back to the Mira Loma for their IB dinner and so forth. And it was great to see the literally hundreds of students come up on the stage and so forth. Was great to see. And finally, I got to spend Saturday and Sunday watching grass grow at the California School Boards Association as we looked at new legislation and so forth. But indeed, it was great to see looking at, and it was, and us solving all of the state's education problems Saturday and Sunday and so forth. And some of you are up for doing that another time as we move forward. That is my report. I believe there are no comments and that sort of thing. We do not need to move back into closed session unless, and I don't see any lights on, so we are adjourned.